the October 28th Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. We're starting right at 9:30, and we are hoping to have a very productive meeting, and we all can play a role in that. I want to say, first of all, thank you to those of you in the audience who are here with us this morning, those who may be tuned in. And I also want to say welcome to our new executive director. This is his first meeting. The last time we saw him in chambers, he was online. And we're glad that you're now in person.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be back.
Welcome back to Tallahassee.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And also we have with us this morning Attorney Lou Norvell, who is sitting in for the city attorney on the board. So welcome, Lou. You're familiar with this. This ain't your first rodeo. All right. So good morning, board members.
Good morning.
So, Mr. Executive Director, do we have any agenda modifications?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. So we will now move to our public comment, or do we have any presentations? And I see our chairman here. So, Madam Chair of the CAC, would you come forward and make your presentation before we go to public comment? Great to see you this morning.
Great to see you all. Good morning. And I really don't have any update because we did not meet between your last meeting and this meeting. However, we did meet with Mr. Cox, our new executive director. It was like an informal meet and greet meeting, which went great, and the conversations that we had were very positive. So the CAC members were very enlightened and encouraged by the willingness of Mr. Cox to work with the community and create new innovative solutions for both the South Side and Frenchtown communities. So we thank you for taking the time to meet with us and really look forward to working with you in the future. So that is all I have to say. We will be meeting on November 1st, this coming Monday at 9.
All right, thank you very much. We will now move to our public comment section on agenda items. Ms. Williams, do we have any speakers?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, we do. At this time, I have 4 speaker cards. I have one for David Butler, Elizabeth Emmanuel, Renee Wright, and Mr. Sims. Mr. Butler, if you would come to the podium, your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes, please. On the dais is a little lighting system. The light's gonna go from green to amber yellow to red.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Williams-Cox and members of the CRA board. My name is David Bolter. I'm a resident of Tallahassee and reside at 121 North Monroe Street. I've given you some written comments, so I'll just try to summarize briefly here. My apologies to Madam Chair. When I looked on the website, it indicated that Commissioner Richardson was the chair, and I understand now that you are, so my apologies for that.
No problem.
I'm here this morning speaking as Vice President of the Board of Directors of the Tennyson, a 90-unit residential condominium that opened in 2006 in downtown Tallahassee, as well as in my personal capacity as owner of residential properties downtown. I want to preface my remarks by saying we are very supportive of the work of the CRA initiatives to revitalize areas downtown, particularly just north of the Tennyson and up on North Monroe Street, including areas in the recent past of Hotel Duval, Aloft, as well as the recent approval of the 440 North, a major development that will include nearly 250 housing units that will improve the viability of that area of Monroe Street downtown. We are also very supportive of the sidewalk initiative that is being proposed here. However, we believe that it is important that the CRA board see downtown as something larger than the 2-block radius surrounding the state capitol. We believe the potential is so much greater, and we believe the study area should include at least 1 block, if not 2 blocks, north of Park Avenue, at least to East Call Street. This area encompasses the Tennyson condominium, the Aloft Hotel, Gulf Winds, Credit Union, Sniffen and Spellman law firm, among others, and is the sidewalk that's used to reach Hotel Duval as well as the 440 North complex when it's open. This area of the sidewalk, and I do have some photos here, is in very poor condition, aesthetically displeasing. I'll jump over some of them. This is from Call Street looking south to Park Street. This is probably the worst area of sidewalks between Hotel Duval and Cascades Park. You can see it's in bad condition here. The utility grates are even bent, so it's hard for people with mobility, as well as other people trying to traverse that area. Broken concrete, more broken concrete, more broken concrete. You can see the trees are well overgrown, creating, it's unsightly, it's not maintained, so it creates a hazard for people walking. This is in front of the Monroe Park Tower, again facing south. You can see the overgrown trees there as well. This is in front of the Tennyson, the entrance to the Tennyson itself here. There are streetlights here, but they're obscured by overgrown trees, so it's, the lighting at night is actually quite poor. This actually is from Park Avenue south toward Jefferson. This is your project area that's proposed right now. As you can see, the sidewalks are in very good condition. It's unimaginative, and we're very supportive of your efforts to revitalize that and make it more interesting. But the contrast, in our view, is quite dramatic in terms of the condition in front of this area of North Monroe Street, just one block north of where the proposed study area is now, what you have currently in the study area. So for that reason, on behalf of the 90 residential owners and families at the Tennyson, as well as area businesses, we urge the CRA to modify the study area to include Park Avenue, at least north one block to Call Street as part of its sidewalk enhancement area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Next speaker we have is Ms. Elizabeth Emmanuel, followed by Ms. Renee Wright. Name and address for the record, please, Ms. Emmanuel, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Elizabeth Emmanuel, 300 West Pensacola Street. I just wanted to come before you all and first of all say thank you to the staff. We've really appreciated being a part of this process when looking at the Monroe Street enhancements. The staff has come at this from a very transparent standpoint, and they've brought this presentation at least 3 times that I've seen it before different groups of downtown stakeholders and business owners. They've been very attuned to the needs of our downtown businesses, and that's been reflected in every step of the process, which is a wonderful thing. I really appreciate the opportunity to enhance the pedestrian safety of North Monroe Street and in our downtown. Outside of a college campus, we have arguably the highest pedestrian traffic of any other part of our community. So really focusing on the safety of those pedestrians that are in our downtown is paramount. The improvements include enhanced bump outs, making it safer to walk across incredibly busy thoroughfares like Monroe Street. So this is a safety enhancement for all of our community. The same with the sidewalks. While the presentation was great, there's actually sidewalks on the other side of the street that look very similar to those areas in front of the Tennyson where the trees have caused very unsafe conditions for pedestrians, for persons of all different types of mobility, anyone wearing high heels. We are constantly getting feedback from our community members that it is an unsafe area to walk through, or stroll through, or wheel through. So having improvements made for all levels of accessibility is really important and a welcome change within our downtown. It's also an opportunity for businesses to be enhanced by an increased sidewalk. These are businesses like Metro Deli, who have had a hard time with the pandemic and rely on the pedestrian foot traffic into their business. Giving them the opportunity for increased seating outside is a great health benefit for all of our community. We're also seeing more private investment along this thoroughfare than many other parts of our community. So what we're doing is setting the stage for success in the future. And I commend and appreciate the forward-thinking nature of this project and what it will bring for years and decades to come within our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker we have is Ms. Renee Wright, followed by Mr. Stanley Sims, and we have additional speaker, Mr. Darrell Jones. Ms. Renee, your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes, please.
Good morning, Renee Wright, 1612 Levy Avenue. Because of the removal of our president, Walter McDonald III, the Providence Neighborhood Association formed the Providence CRA Investigation Committee. The Neighborhood Association has gotten increasingly concerned with the usage of CRA dollars and of decisions made by the CRA. Very often, decisions by the CRA do not reflect the decisions nor information put forward by the CAC. In this case, we wondered how and why our president was removed from the CAC and wondered if this was a CAC decision. We also sought to understand why misinformation was spread about the Providence Neighborhood Association at a CRA meeting. Today, let it be entered into the record that Providence Neighborhood Association did not receive any direct contact from CRA staff regarding the removal of our president. This needs to be on record because Commissioner Diane Williams-Cox asserted that we had not responded and staff did not correct her to let her know that we had not been personally notified. There was only regular City of Tallahassee public notice. Prior to the public meeting, our president did let us know that there was something going on, but that he had been reassured that it would not directly affect him. The investigation committee asked for and attended recorded virtual meetings with the CRA staff and Attorney Norvell. If you would like to review all of the details, it should be available in public record. After attending that meeting and other internal meetings, the CRA investigation committee asserts that Providence Neighborhood Association should have received an email to our association email regarding the bylaw change. Our email is registered with Neighborhood Affairs. Additionally, Neighborhood Affairs should have been notified. The City of Tallahassee revised City Commission Policy 122 entitled Neighborhood Notification, Engagement, and Involvement on June 16, 2021. 122.06B states that city departments shall, quote, ensure that the Neighborhood Affairs Division is duly notified of proposed/adopted changes in departmental policies, projects, services, and activities having a significant effect on neighborhoods, in ample time to allow participation by the impacted neighborhoods associations in the process, end quote. The removal of our president has significantly impacted our neighborhood and should have been anticipated as such. The CRA Investigation Committee finds that the new bylaws are inappropriate for Providence neighborhood participation. Anyone duly elected in the neighborhood should be able to serve regardless of the CRA's emphasis on financial ties to the neighborhood. The Providence Neighborhood Association also has the same qualifications of reside, work, or live in the neighborhood that the CRA has asserted they base their decisions on. Our president is qualified under a need to reside, work, or live in the neighborhood. Our definition of work does not hinge on financial compensation for the worker. Our community acknowledges that there are many valid ways, including bartering, church work, unrecorded cash payments, public service, and in-kind match as a demonstration of work. The Providence Neighborhood Association sends our president as representative of our community. The investigation committee finds that the choice not to include our duly elected president in the modification of the bylaws show that the CRA is in fact still trying to build over, mold, and gentrify the community instead of reflect and support the currently valid methods and needs and desires of a blighted community. Our detailed recommendations are there if you decide to authentically include our neighborhood in your advisory board instead of requiring a person who happens to meet your criteria but who would not be best qualified for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker we have is Mr. Stanley Sims, followed by Mr. Dow Jones. Your name and address for the record, Mr. Sims. And you'll have 3 minutes, please.
My name is Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. Point of privilege. Point of privilege. Madam Chair, one who's been very outspoken of the police department. It is important for me this morning to spend at least of my time to say that I experienced community policing last night. A decision was made for me not to come back in this chamber. Members of this chamber, including decorated officers and fire department, spoke up on my behalf. And immediately, a decision was made for me to come back in this chamber. But I made the decision. Putting my health first and the security of my family first. I decided. I'm very thankful for all of the calls and the emails that was sent to me. Not by those that I thought, those that I did think. That's the Tallahassee I love. While I'm here this morning, Mr. Cox, I want to welcome you to Tallahassee. I also want to thank you thank this chairman for our meeting. It was a very productive meeting, a very open meeting, and a meeting where we were able to be honest. And I'm very thankful that the CRA is not being taken for granted anymore. And I want to spend just a few seconds, and this red light is going to catch me, and I know. But just because you in our skin don't make you our kin. And the remarks that I heard in reference to another black historian in this city was repulsive. And it would have been repulsive if a white woman would have said it. And it was repulsive to me as a black woman who would come up and speak against. And the reason why we don't have monuments of others is because we don't have more of Altamese bonds to identify them. So to cancel out her accomplishments because she said, what about the others? That question should not be posed to Altamese bonds. That question should have been posed to the oppressors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. Our last and final speaker that I have speaker card for is Mr. Darrell Jones. Your name and address for the record, sir, and you'll have 3 minutes. Podium light will go from green to amber yellow to red. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, commissioners. To our new director, Mr. Stephen Cox, I am Darrell Jones, the Deputy Director for the Office of Tallahassee-Leon County Office of Economic Vitality, and I live at 325 Chastain Lane in the heart of Southside Tallahassee in the Wilson Green neighborhood. I'm delighted to stand here before you as a member of this, as a colleague of Mr. Cox and as a direct report to this, to the IMC and to the subsequent commission to talk about what I believe is an important viability of item number 7.01, which is the facade grant extension to serve the facility that we know also houses the historic businesses found in Frenchtown, namely Economy Drugstore, Gillum Barbershop, and others. You'll recall that at our last IA meeting, y'all gave clear and present direction to the staff of the Office of Economic Vitality about reaching out and helping those businesses that had been included in a proposal that came to you all. Well, that's the big, now this is part of that, but we want you to know that we're continuing our engagement with the property owner. They've also made investments already. We're coming up with a long-term sustainability plan, and the fact that you make this extension will just be one more important cog in what will be an ongoing activity of progress in that historic neighborhood. But for us, most specifically, being able to help those businesses sustain in that historic community, in that historic space, and we want to be a part of that. And I just wanted to offer my support publicly, again, at your instruction, to make certain that we served those businesses that came under our review at our last IA meeting. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Jones, in your capacity as the Deputy Director of OEV, but also as the Honorable School Board member. Thank you for, we know how busy you are. Thank you for coming to us today to support these very important projects. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Our next speaker, please.
We did receive one additional speaker, Ms. Donna Cottrell. Your name and address for the record, ma'am. You will have 3 minutes. The light will go from green to amber yellow to red.
Good morning. My name is Donna Pearl Cottrell. I live in the Barn community. And I want to say thank you, commissioners, because I know how hard it is to go from a late meeting in the evening to an early meeting in the morning, and then probably hear some of the same stuff over again. So for those of you who did hear me last night, we are opening Indaba Theater in the new Railroad Village. And I know it's too late for this round of funding for this cycle, but for 2022, please think about Indaba Theater, because we're more than just a theater. I, as a young person, at 13 years old, was experimenting with all the wrong things. But I was introduced to theater at 15 years old, and it changed my life. And I'm hoping that impact and that influence through Indaba Theater ripples through the Bond community. Our mission is to inspire, empower, uplift, and to create healthy outlets of self-expression using theater as therapy to help people overcome obstacles in their life. And we know our young people are dealing with a lot of mental health issues, and the traditional ways are not working. Social workers, caseworkers are not reaching our kids. And we know we have a high gun violence rate in our city. One of the things that we got funded for was we got a grant of $2,000 from Reebok to teach kids mindfulness, because a lot of our young boys, they're just numb. And a lot of our young girls are being pushed out of school through suspensions. So we want to be able to be a support to our community to not only create healthy youth, but also healthy adults who we have a wellness circle for, because we know as adults we deal with our own stuff. So we're creating a space for all the community to come together and to create wellness. So I ask for your support going forward. And if you didn't get a flyer last night, I have flyers here, I have a poster here. Please feel free to come take one, hang them up in your places of business, and encourage folks to come out November 13th to our grand opening. Thank you.
Thank you. We have any more speakers?
No additional speakers at this time.
All right, thank you. And thank you all for coming to share with us this morning. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Has anything changed, Mr. Cox?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Move consent, Madam
Second.
It's been properly moved by Board Member Richardson, seconded by Board Member Porter, that we move to accept items as consent. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. We'll now move on to Section 7, Greater Frenchtown Southside District Policy Formation and Direction. Mr. Cox?
Yes, we have a presentation by CRA staff, Sheila Williams.
This is agenda item number 7.01. It is regarding the approval of the amended Business Facility Improvement Grant Program for the property located at 319 North Macomb Street, Ms. Geraldine Roberts. The property owner was approved for a business facility improvement grant and for roofing as phase 1 of their development. What happened was during the course of the roofer beginning to re-roof the property, there were some unforeseen issues that they found regarding doing the roof that had to be addressed immediately. So with that, they are requesting additional money for those repairs that were unforeseen. And because the requested amount now goes over the executive directors and staff approval, we're bringing that item to you all for an amended additional funding amount of $8,500. The property, the grant is for no match money and matching dollars, and this is just phase 1 of what the property owners are anticipating to do. They have been in contact with some of the additional city staff and are moving forward with some additional phase 2 items that'll include doing some painting and awnings, but right now we're on phase 1, requesting a no match grant amount and a dollar-for-dollar matching amount. That'll take the total amount for doing the re-roofing is right at $41,500, with the CRA requested amount of upwards of $30,750, with the property owners doing their dollar-for-dollar match. So all of that information was included in the agenda packet to you all with your agenda item and the updated staff report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams. Let's have some board discussion.
Move the item.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm ready to support this and move option 1 for staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, so the mayor has
I'm sorry,
has moved, so you're
Oh.
seconding? Okay.
Apologize. I didn't
All right, the mayor has moved acceptance of the recommended action, and Board Member Porter has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 8, downtown district policy formation and direction. Mr. Cox?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have CRA staff as well as a member of the planning department, Mr. Floyd. He will give a brief presentation on this project for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Mr.
Good
Floyd,
morning.
welcome.
Yeah, good morning. Y'all can hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll just jump into this and I'll be real brief. If y'all got any questions or whatever, just feel free to interject. It originally just came to us, because FDOT is going to do some improvements in the area. And as we pointed out some of the slides earlier, there's a number of sidewalk issues, safety issues, there's some drainage issues. There's also some underground infrastructure issues. So we were asked to basically look at this corridor from Park to Jefferson as the initial request. So we went out there and started studying that. And basically, before we started looking at the tree health, started looking at when it's raining, kind of see where the water's ponding, where the water's going, where all the trip hazards are, and just developed just a general concept. And this is just really kind of if the laser pointer works. It's got a low battery. All right, but anyway, can you go back a slide, please? You can look at the northwest corner. It's got the black dash box around. That's basically where Metro Deli is for reference. We started that corner and then worked our way down to Jefferson. And then when we got down to Jefferson, there's a couple of loading zones, and we started looking at the traffic alignment and worked with UDPI on a number of issues to see if there's any opportunity for, lane width reduction, lane shift, anything like that. And really the consensus we got to when we got closer to Jefferson is we generally need to keep the center line and the existing striping roughly where it is. We can keep the loaded zone is, because we tried to see if we could add some parking down at that corner, but with the turning movements, we have to keep it. So we went back up to where Metro Deli is at the northwest corner. There's a grade change there. It kind of drops off. There's some railing. It's a little bit of a pinch point from the pedestrian experience standpoint. And so we said, okay, let's just look and see how we can enhance the pedestrian experience, because that's really the priority of this corridor rather than the automobile. And so we started with that corner and said, what can we do here? And we started looking at, there's a number of obstructions if you walk down the sidewalk from, the sidewalk sign. There's benches, trash cans, bike racks, backflow preventers, all kind of things, just kind of all over the place. And so we basically just started here and said, what if we can just shift the curb line out about 10 feet? If you take parallel parking, angled on-street parking and convert it to parallel parking, you'll gain about 10 feet of sidewalk width. And so we said that we'll start there. It's a loss of about 4 parking spaces at that corner. When we took this concept to and met with the downtown businesses, everybody was fully supportive of this, including Metro Deli. They were like, oh, we love this. This would be great. Give us some outdoor seating. And so we were at their request, we were asked to basically extend the parallel down to College. There's some initial requests to take it all the way to Jefferson. Some of the businesses on the block of Jefferson said, we'd like to keep the angle. We're concerned about reducing parking. So we said, okay, we'll just take it down to College, and then we'll kind of leave it as is when we get to the next block over. The other thing, if you look at the diagram at the bottom, that's just a typical cross-section. And basically, you got the parallel on-street parking. Then you got 6 to 8 foot of planting room for the trees. So that's another issue you run into with the trees and like a tree root. And then you got a paver strip to kind of define the pedestrian sidewalk, 16 inches wide, 2 8-inch pavers, double soldier course row. Then you'd have a minimum of a 5.5 foot clear, unobstructed sidewalk. And it would get wider where it can, but the minimum it would be 5.5 feet. And then you have another paver width, it'd be 16 inches, that help with the door zone, so you don't have a business, someone coming out, opening a door into a pedestrian that's walking down the sidewalk. The furnishing zone basically is be closer to where the tree is, and between the trees, that's where all your benches, your bike racks, your sidewalk signage, lamp posts, backflow preventers, everything else that you don't want to block a pedestrian would be in that furnishing zone. So it just kind of cleans it up, organizes it. In the next slide here. And you can see, where we've taken the parallel spaces, on the block between Park down to College, and it really mirrors what's already existing on the other side. If you'll notice, there's some trees, about 5 or 6 trees on the east side Monroe between College and Park. Those are the ones that actually showed up in the gentleman's picture earlier. They're kind of scraggly looking. They've been there a number of years. And the problem with those trees is they were just planted with the roots all balled up. And they're never going to get any bigger or look any prettier. And so we started looking at tree health up and down this corridor. And we have an opportunity to basically pull up the trees that are unhealthy and replace them with street tree appropriate trees in downtown environment, similar to what's in front of Aloft and some of these other places. Just one species. We're not committed to anything. Something like an East Palaca holly or some other similar type species. Doesn't get too big, but provides an evergreen shade. The other thing with the trees, when these trees were planted, 20 years ago, I mean, science was different. You basically dug a 6x6 hole. If you're lucky, there's oftentimes smaller. You stuck a tree in it, and and it's basically like a potted tree, and just hope for the best kind of thing. We have so much more new science and technology to help trees really grow in an urban environment. So we recommend exploring like silver cells and other technology, really give a wide root zone underneath the sidewalk. That would help prevent some of the buckling and the breaking of the curb, the uplifting the tree grates, and then also the impact to underground utilities. So those are some of the things that we would take consideration. And this is just a concept at this point, but that's when we get into engineering design, those are things that we would explore. There's just a close-up of a corner here, and you can see there's a clear concrete sidewalk. We looked at doing pavers for the sidewalk, but the cost was just too prohibitive. So we said, okay, the compromise is to do real brick pavers everywhere else and then have a clear sidewalk area. The advantage to doing a real brick paver, like the furnishing zone and all that, a lot of that's where utilities are. So we have to go out there and address any kind of repair for utilities, pre-replacement. You basically just pick up the pavers. I mean, they're not easy enough just to grab and then throw through a window or something like that. They're really firmly in place, but you bring the tools out with staff, you can lift them up, set them off the side, do the work, and then put them back. And then, of course, they'd be secure, so you couldn't just, a citizen couldn't just pop them up, if we had an issue or anything like that. On the scoring pattern, we proposed going to a more traditional scoring pattern rather than doing a downtown diamond pattern. Just for some of the cracking issues and other things that we've had with that. And that's something that we can also explore as we get into final design. But these are just some quick thumbnails. And then here, if you look at the top pictures, that's just a 3D mock-up that we did to kind of give you an idea of help visualize, what it could look like if we, make some of these improvements, take some of the areas to, parallel, and we're still showing some angles so you kind of get an idea. And there's some thumbnails at the bottom. The other thing to point out is the lamp post, the lighting. The lighting will be replaced as an existing project that electric is already planning to do. And so those lamp posts will be replaced with like the Gain Street standard that we have down Gain Street. That's already budgeted, proposed, and would be implemented in time with this. So with that, I'll open up for any questions. That's just a quick summary. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
All right. Any questions, any discussion? Mayor?
First of all, Jeremy, thank you very much. I think it's fantastic. I also agree with the Vice President of the Tennyson that we should expand it. We talked about that before the meeting as well. Appreciate you coming out. It should go from Call to Jefferson. Can you put the schematic back up that shows the? There we go. And by the way, I'm really, really excited about this. I mean, when we talk about downtown and breathing new life and making it more pedestrian friendly, this is where we start. Great job. And I truly believe in our design department. Y'all do amazing work. So I definitely think that, and I will be more than happy to make a motion in just a second, whenever you're ready, Madam Chair. But I do think that we should go from Call all the way to Jefferson. I am interested in at least seeing a design of parallel parking on the west side of Monroe. So that'd be the Metro Deli side of the road, okay? Parallel parking from Park all the way to Jefferson. Now, I know you have some businesses down there on that end that are a little hesitant, and we probably would need to take this back to the working group, make sure everybody's on board. But to extend that cafe-style sidewalk literally from, especially from Park all the way to Jefferson, I think is very important. Think about potential future uses of like the little green space right there that's boarded up and the empty building right there on the corner of Jefferson and Monroe. I mean, I've got great ideas like we probably all do, but I do think that we should extend the cafe style all the way down and have parallel parking. Now, having said that, I think we should look at Jefferson And instead of having 2 lanes due west, basically you're driving into City Hall, I think we could take that down to 1 lane. Instead of having parallel parking on Jefferson, have your angled parking on Jefferson. Okay? So you still have your 1 lane heading west, as if you're driving into City Hall, right? Instead of 2, you can still have the Y split, go down Adams Street or go around City Hall, okay? But I think that we could alleviate some of the hesitation from the businesses that are basically on the corner of Monroe and Jefferson by moving the angled parking instead of on Monroe to on Jefferson. So those are some initial thoughts that I have. Look, a couple other thoughts that are outside the scope of what's being presented as well. I think it's time to repaint everything in downtown, okay? Crosswalks, all of the, all of our infrastructure. And I'm also of the mindset, look, we're either going to do the stamp on Adams Street or we're not. But to have the stamp brick pavement look, but not the upkeep, kind of defeats the purpose in my mind. So I think that we should seriously consider, whether it's the CRA or the city or whatever the appropriate body, we need to make sure that we're going to put in the time, the effort, and the money, we as the commission or the CRA, for the upkeep and the general look of downtown Tallahassee. And I think that's been an issue with the DIA for quite some time, at least it was when I was on the DIA. But, let's be proud, let's invest, let's repaint, let's as we're making these major changes to the benefit of downtown, let's repaint everything as well, if that makes sense. With that, whenever you are ready, I will be more than happy to make a motion.
I'll come back to you. Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for all your work on this. I think, these types of changes will be a huge asset to our downtown as far as driving pedestrian traffic and really opening up public space to where everybody can enjoy it. I guess my question for you, based on what the mayor just proposed, have we explored with FDOT and CRTPA about expanding towards the Tennyson? Because I assume that would open up a larger design cost, and do we have any information about doing that at all? Or has that ever been considered by staff?
This is the first comment that's been made to us. The direction given to us was basically look at Jefferson to Park. That was just a direction given to the staff. The comments made by you, Mr. Mayor, today, we can certainly take that into consideration and take that to CRTPA and make that request for it.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll add is this right here is just a cartoon, if you will, a loose concept based on field work and GIS work. With this funding request, we'd go to engineering design and survey, so we'd have much more accurate data. We develop and refine this concept, evolve it further with the comments you guys given us today, and then bring it back to all the folks that we've already met with, the businesses, the CAC, you guys, and everyone else.
Okay. And I'm not against trying to expand the scope of what we improve downtown, but I do have questions about, where is it going to be funded? Obviously, the CRA is not going to fund this entire project. We don't know if CRTPA would even have other projects that would have to shift around to expand the scope. So I think if we could move forward with this item, give the 250 to get started, and then also give direction to maybe explore how we can expand it, if that would be acceptable, because there's just too many unanswered questions for me to say, yes, let's move forward, because it seems we'll be directing other boards at that point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Board Member Porter and then Board Member Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I'm really excited about this. I think it's a long time coming. I live downtown, and the reason I lived downtown when I moved there was because I didn't have a car, and I could walk to work, I could bike to work. I bike every day almost on Call Street, on these sidewalks and on the road, and experience it personally. It is, and I appreciate the pictures you took, Mr. Volter, because that is a safety hazard. And I grew up wheeling my grandfather around on a wheelchair, and you cannot wheel someone around on a wheelchair on that. So one way or another, we need to take care of that. I am just generally excited by the vision. I hope that it'll jumpstart some other planning and creative ideas that we can do downtown. I mean, because this is really just the start for how we continue to invest. As far as expanding it, I want to expand it. I want to see that Call Street included, but I just agree with, so whatever way we can give direction that moves that forward, but also is considerate of where the funding is going to come from and the other bodies that are in collaboration with this. So I'm open-minded if there are alternative suggestions about how we want to move forward kind of with both, but making sure that we don't hold this up because we're waiting on other boards. So whatever that looks like, I'm open to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board, on point, or you want to go after Board Member Richardson?
On point, but I can wait.
Okay. Board Member Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess I'm agreeing with Commissioners Matlow and Porter on the excitement that I have, because, you know, this has been a long time coming, and we've got all of the new construction and renovation and remodeling happening at the Capitol properties, and certainly we need to carry that over into the rest of our downtown area to be reflective of the capital city of the state of Florida, where, you know, we have visitors coming during the legislative session and others that tour our downtown area, and it's quite frankly embarrassing, some of what we've seen in the pictures this morning, that is in the core of our downtown area. So I too am excited about what is being proposed here. It's a long time coming. It's probably long overdue for us to be the capital city of the state of Florida. I would like to see us expand, but again, too, I agree that we need to have a concept brought back to us. We need to certainly confer with the other bodies, the CRTPA, the City of Tallahassee, on how we can work together, because certainly the CRA won't be able to fund all of this. But I agree that it needs to happen. And so if we could have a concept brought back to us and then confer with those other bodies that would be involved in this, then I would certainly be willing to consider expanding the project. I think it needs to be expanded. The other thing I wanted to point out, Mr. Mayor, you said that your proposal was to have a one-lane driving east or west, rather, from Monroe towards City Hall, but there's a two-lane turn from Monroe onto, so that would be another issue that we'd have to confront as well.
Sure.
Those two lanes
we could.
that would come. Yeah. Okay.
So,
You're done, Board Member?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Mayor.
Chair.
okay, so I'm going to make the motion for staff recommendation because you don't have the votes to extend it all the way down to call, although I truly do support it. Want to remind you all that this is just planning. We're not in construction yet. So as we plan for these 2 blocks, I think that it's just as easy to plan for the 3 blocks. As we plan for parking, I think that we should get creative and look at different ways. Jeremy, am I to believe that, so the proposal that we have in front of us is still for angled parking from College to Jefferson and for parallel parking on Jefferson to Adams, correct?
Yeah, let me make sure I heard you right. Yeah, the proposal is to basically convert angle parking and parallel from Park to College, and then basically.
But keep the parking the same from College to Jefferson.
Yeah, unless we're told otherwise.
Right.
But when we get into concept and then we get the survey, we can look at the options. We can draw it up with either angle
Correct.
versus parallel to see what it looks like.
Right, so we are surveying regardless, even if we keep the parking at an angle from College to Jefferson. So if we're doing the planning and we are moving forward with all the elements of PD&E, and we're doing the survey anyway, can you bring back another option to say, this is what it's going to look like with angled, this is what it's going to look like with parallel? When we're planning, shouldn't we have a bigger, brighter vision for downtown and say, if we went with parallel on this block, then yes, we could go with angled parking on Jefferson Street. Absolutely. We're talking multi-jurisdictional, Commissioner Richardson, because you would have to have the state and the feds involved with the turn lanes. But it's not that it cannot be done, it just has to be properly planned. And this is the proper planning stage. But for the purposes of being a team player today, I'm going to make the motion. I have made my notes on the record of where I think we should go.
Madam
Maybe
Chair.
we will get there in the future, but I will make the motion for staff recommendation.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
And
okay,
I just wanted to follow up
Okay.
on the mayor's comments.
go ahead.
I did too.
Board Member Matlow, and then
Okay.
I'll come to you, Board Member Porter.
I just want to say I absolutely agree, Mr. Mayor, about the parallel parking all the way down. You know, the wider sidewalk, the better, the whole time. I know we have, you know, some growing pains to overcome to do that, but for the future of the city, I think that's the right path. The angle parking on Jefferson, I'm happy to see what that looks like. I don't know. It's hard to picture exactly, but if that is functional, it's not a bad idea to get more parking spots in that area. And then happy to pass this today, and I would say for the further expansions, let's just continue to work with staff and our other departments. We didn't initiate this project at the CRA. We were just asked for funding for the design, but there are other channels we can go through to look at other projects and expanding maybe in a second phase or that sort of thing. But thank you for the ideas. I think they were great, and looking forward to move forward with this.
Okay, Board Member Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question, Jeremy, because my comments were that I was asking for an alternative, to understand exactly what we're doing today and how we can make both work and give that direction. So, Jeremy, if we, for the $250,000 that you're asking that we are considering approval for, what can that be done including Call Street on conceptually? Or what does that look like for this stage of the project to include Call Street?
For doing the survey and engineering, it would require additional cost to do that.
Right.
I don't know what that number is right off the top of my head, but we can get that number and get that back to you guys. If there's an opportunity to make it happen within that budget, we can certainly, try to make that happen, but I would anticipate there being, some additional cost with that. And obviously the construction cost would be, additional as well. But we can see, what we can do to try to make that happen, and then, and if you want to, if we need to come back with a separate funding request to include that block, I would say we could probably do that.
Okay, thank you. And the reason I ask is that I do want there to be a way that we are jump-starting this so that we're not just saying, let's include it down the road, so whatever that looks like, and I don't feel like I know right now what direction we need to take to make sure that those actions are triggered for follow-up. So, but I just want the record to show that I'm open-minded on where we go with this, and I want to include call. I just can't move forward without knowing what that's going to cost us with the CRA and whether the other boards are included. So, I know there's a motion on the table. I'll support the motion, but I don't know if we can make a separate motion giving additional direction that we direct staff to have these conversations with the CRTPA, or if there are any other ideas for how we move forward. Thank
Okay,
you.
you want to come back to the maker?
Sure.
Maker.
Yeah, I agree. So, legal, help us out. Jeremy, at what point in the process would you be able to determine whether or not the 250 allocation could be used to include the expansion all the way down to Call Street?
I could actually, make phone calls, when we're done here and ask and see how much we can do with the 250,000. The survey will be cheaper if we're already out there, just to basically add another block rather than making, a separate trip and starting over. So it would be cheaper rather than treating it as separate, but I can ask and try to get that number for you, or you guys, later today, or hopefully at least by the end of the week.
Okay. Commissioner Porter, I am perfectly comfortable amending the motion And we'll get the exact language in a second. But hey, if we can do this with the $250,000 allocation all the way down the call, yeah, let's do it. If we can't protect the integrity of the original proposal by expanding it and it's going to significantly impact, then yeah, let's bring it back as a second separate item. That's going to leave the decision up to staff, who I trust would make the decision, Jeremy and Devin and your team, about can we do this? You're going to make a couple of phone calls. You're either going to figure out, yeah, we can do this, or we can't do this. And if we can't do this, the board is saying, we want you to bring that segment back under a separate agenda item in the future with the allocated cost to be able to move forward with it from park to call, okay? But if I'm understanding correctly, what we're saying is if we can't, you talk to everybody that you need to this afternoon, and if we can do it, include it in the $250,000 allocate, let's go for it. Does that make sense? Is everybody comfortable with that?
Of course.
Okay.
I'd like to add one thing, is the next meeting is not until, what, December? Okay, so in December, so in the meantime, I don't want to hold them up.
We're not.
Okay.
So the way how the motion would work is we're moving forward with this proposal regardless. If you can include the extra block,
Right.
Madam Chair, under the proposed cost, let's do it. If
Right.
we can't include it and not be able to cover the cost, then that little segment, the addition would come back
As a
for
separate-
consideration
Right,
at a
I
future meeting.
understand that, but I want to put some dollars on it. For instance, if you can't do it, then, and you determine that you can do it with an additional $50,000, then we can go ahead and say that if it can be done with up to an additional $50,000, then you can keep rolling. You don't have to come back. That's what I'm saying. Let's put some money on it and let's keep going. And then if that's not enough money, then come back. Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess my concern is, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but, you know, this has been a multi-departmental effort, and we may approve $50,000 in additional design funding and have no construction funding, no build funding,
Right.
Have a commitment from FDOT that we can even do it. We've just been working on this section for months and months, and I think we can continue to work on the next section. It seems like we're going to slow down this whole project if we're going to go through all the channels to make sure we can do the whole thing all at once. So, I mean, I would recommend as a CRA board, maybe we send a letter to CRTPA and just express interest in expanding the project and see what comes back from there. But I don't want to commit an extra $50,000 in design fees if there's no guarantee it's going to get constructed. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So I'm comfortable with the $250,000 now, and then if those pieces get worked out between our next meeting, it could come back if needed.
All right. Any other discussion? Mayor, I hear gears turning next to me. What's going on?
Well, I think let me bring one more thing up on that one particular stretcher call. Okay, there's one thing to talk about the master plan of it. Commissioner Matlow, I'm fine with that. No big deal. Okay, we could bring it back to talk about that. We'll move forward with this. If we can do it all under the same budget, yeah, let's move forward. But if it's going to be a significant cost, we're not going to impact the original proposal. Okay, we're on the same length. There were serious safety issues on the sidewalk that was addressed in front of the Tennyson that I do think need to be addressed. Okay, probably some basic maintenance. I don't know, Lou, if it's appropriate to bring that back under a separate item today to talk about, or I'm trying to sit here and say, look, okay, I get the master plan an issue, but if we got uneven sidewalks that are hazards, and now we know about them, we have an obligation to correct that, correct? From a legal standpoint, Lou?
So certainly whoever maintains those sidewalks has a duty to keep them in a safe condition.
Right.
I'd have to defer to staff as to whether or not these are city maintained or if they're state maintained. I believe that they're state owned, but maybe city maintained, but I'd have to defer to staff on that.
Okay, well, we need an answer to that question by the next meeting, I would assume. so that we can move forward. If there are safety hazards that need to be addressed, we should at least address those immediately. So, Commissioner Porter, let me see if I can put our motion together, which is, the motion is for the original plan and to evaluate whether we can extend a call under the same allocation of $250,000. If we can, we move forward. If we cannot, then we move forward with the original plan, and under a separate agenda item at another meeting for consideration, we consider the expansion from park to call. That's the motion on the table.
Right. All in favor of the motion on the table, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. If, let me just, now that we've done that, I made a couple of notes I just want to mention. Then to talk about the parallel parking, I know that that's traditionally what we have downtown, but do they even teach that anymore? Do they teach people how to parallel park anymore?
They don't.
Okay,
Tell you
so
my
at some
daughter
point in time, we got to be looking at the future and knowing that we're going to have people out there driving who don't know how to parallel park. And we're going to probably need to look at how to eliminate some parallel parking going forward. As difficult as it is, you know, well, those of us who got driver's license, you know, way back when, you know, looking at Kay Lenar's Barber, when we got our driver's license, we had to parallel park, pull out and back in and do it again. So I think we need to, at some point, look at that. The other thing too, since we're talking about this and we're talking about CRA, I had a flashback to our visit to Greenville, and Greenville's downtown. We need to make sure we keep in mind bringing people downtown, a diverse group of people downtown. I know we've had some of these conversations, not just to own businesses, but to visit, to come downtown. You know, folks come to the capital city and see the downtown, but they don't see the people of the city because they have to go to sections or sectors of town to see them. And that was one of the issues I had with Greenville. Downtown was beautiful, but when I asked the question, where the black people? Nobody had a real answer. And I don't want our town to be like that. I want there to be real answers that we have all people represented downtown, and everyone is welcome downtown. I know that the businesses welcome everyone downtown. I'm just saying we need to make sure we keep an eye on that. And Mr. Floyd, I can't see him behind the podium. In talking about the trees, I'm sure you or someone has consulted with Mindy, our urban forester. Y'all are working with her and dealing with the health of the trees and any movement or any discussion. I see Devin nod. Whenever we mention trees, we've got to be very, very careful. Those trees are like gold. Even though they may not look good and they may not, you know, think that they're going to do whatever, we've got to make sure that what we do with them is according to the standard and according to the urban forest plan that we adopted to make sure that we don't do any harm. So I'm hoping that she's included in that process.
We have. I'm a professional landscape architect by trade, and we've also worked closely with Mindy and other arborist staff, and then we also explored case studies, you know, throughout the southeast, you know, and big proponent of kind of like right tree, right place, and so we definitely be doing our homework.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was a very robust discussion. Moving along to, we have nothing in 9.0, district, both districts. And do we have any public speakers on any unagenda items? Or did we already exhaust that?
I have no speaker cards for that, this segment.
Okay, great. I was hoping that would be the case. We're now at CRA board information and sharing of ideas, and I'll start at the end. Board Member Porter, you have anything that you want to share?
Really nothing for me. I will say that I was really excited by this conversation, and I do hope that as I was up here, I texted Elizabeth Emmanuel to say, let's set up a meeting, because I know we all have at different points brought up ideas for our downtown, and I certainly have some that I've discussed with staff and discussed with others. So I'm not going to make a motion. I just want to say that I'm excited. I hope we all come back with some more ideas to kind of piggyback off of the investments that we're making. One thing that I have discussed and would love to see in Tallahassee at some point is this thing called Ciclovia, which is, we can call it something else, but it's every Sunday, different parts of the country shut down certain roads for people to come out and cycle and walk. And it's something that's really cool. It brings out the community because, you know, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg for having the infrastructure that supports people, but then having the programming and the events that keep them there and bring them there. So that's something that I've been thinking about and want to explore. And I just look forward to having more of these kinds of discussions in the future. So thank you.
It's an asset to have an urban planner on your board. So
Thank you.
thank you. Board Member Richardson.
Just a question, Madam Chair, and that is, Elizabeth, you may be able to answer this, will the Downtown Improvement Authority be the sort of point organization in all of this? Because we can't have just ideas and recommendations coming from all over, and there not be I think a point organization where all of this comes into, it's vetted, and then we look at how we want to improve and grow our downtown area. I'm real concerned that, you know, a lot is being thrown out there by individuals and maybe groups, but at some point, all of that is going to have to be brought together and vetted, and a plan developed as to how we want our downtown to look.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to invite myself to the microphone.
You're invited.
So I wholeheartly agree with you. We have a fantastic board, and I'm really proud of the work that our board does. However, we also have about 630 businesses within downtown.
Right.
So what we've been doing, in addition to bringing these matters to our board, is actually pulling together stakeholder groups where we invite the impacted people for these projects to a public meeting where we have staff come and present to them as well. I also send out emails to others that aren't able to be in attendance that are in that jurisdiction so that we can get input from our business owners. You know, we need to engage with our residents more. We try to ensure that they're included in our board members, but we certainly hold all of our meetings open to the public and invite more participation, because I think there were very valid points brought up today. So we would love to have more engagement overall, but also being mindful that while I was very specific in the 2 blocks, I should have gone farther and engaged more. So in the future, we'll open those meetings up, and I'm happy to serve as point. I'm happy for our organization to serve as point, since we speak with a lot of these business owners on a daily basis and ensure that these ideas are brought to our community with more buy-in, always kept within the public, so that anyone that's interested in downtown can attend and give their feedback as well. Because to Commissioner Williams-Cox's point, we should be an inclusive part of our community with representation from not just our business owners, but the people that come here for our events, because we do have an incredible amount of events going on, and hopefully we'll have a few more that we can put on our calendar as well.
So, Madam Chair, in that regard, I would like to suggest, or if we need a motion to direct that the Downtown Improvement Authority be that lead organization that all of this information comes into, and that they make recommendations for us moving forward with our downtown. We need a motion? Or?
I think it would probably be proper to go ahead and make that a motion.
I would make that motion then, that the Downtown Improvement Authority be the lead organization that would accept all of these recommendations, vet those recommendations, and then develop a plan, a comprehensive plan that would be presented to all of the impacted organizations, because certainly it won't be just the CRA. It will be the city, it will be CRTPA, FDOT in some instances, for how we then move forward with the growth and development of our downtown area. That would be my motion.
Second for discussion.
Okay, I just got a point of clarification. The motion that has been made and seconded, and so we'll now have discussion. But let me say this, Mayor, before I come to you. The DRC is like the CAC, right, for downtown.
Right.
So what role would the DRC play in this as opposed to the DIA?
Well, I mean, but this isn't just the CRA.
I understand.
You see what I'm saying? It's broader than the CRA. So certainly the DRC would have input to the DIA.
Okay. And Elizabeth, I'm gonna look at you again. What's the current interplay between the DRC and the DIA?
I do attend all the DRC meetings, so I like to think that I'm a good collaborator. I certainly understand your point, and I'm happy to be a part of, this outreach process, whether it lives within our organization or lives within multiple, that's fine. But I'm actively engaged with the staff for this project, with the DRC, with the CRA staff, so I'm happy to continue that collaborative effort.
I just want to make sure, because I know there are a lot of moving parts, but we do need to make sure that the CAC is in play when it comes to the CRA. And much like what we do with the CAC for Greater Frenchtown Southside, where the chair comes and reports out, as this thing moves forward, I would hope that we would expect that the chair of the DRC would come and report out on what's going on there as well. Okay, Mayor Porter and Matlow.
Commissioner Richardson, I understand what you're saying. I can't support the motion on the table today. All right, this is a bigger conversation, if anything, that should take place over time. Your motion would literally rewrite the entire scope of the DIA and what it does, and it would change the day-to-day operations of Elizabeth, and you would probably have to add a lot of staff. If we're talking about shifting the initial coordination of the remaster planning of the downtown area from infrastructure and everything to the DIA, which is a voluntary board, that's a bigger conversation than just the motion today in my mind. That's a conversation that I want to hear, Elizabeth, in more detail than just at the podium today. I want to see a plan on how that actually works, who all is involved with that. So I don't want to have a straight up or down vote today on that. If anything, it needs to come back as an agenda item. And there have been many groups involved talking about downtown. Prior to COVID, the FAMU College of Architecture, FSU's Urban and Regional Planning Department, myself, Elizabeth, TCC hosted. We had many community meetings hosted on FAMU's campus, one in particular. Remember the charrette that we did down at the architectural school, the one that we did at TCC. I mean, there have been a lot of discussions. Those need to be brought back because of COVID. We're getting to the point where we can gather again. I'm just very hesitant to make any major moves with the planning and the formal planning and master plan of downtown. So I'm not going to be able to support the motion as it is right now.
Okay, Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the mayor on this one, although I believe I understand the spirit of the motion, and I'm interested in having that conversation. And I certainly want to make sure that we are collaborating and strategizing and on the same page. So that I definitely support whatever this body decides that looks like or how we want to formalize that, but especially since it includes other boards and bodies and governments, I'd prefer that we wait to vote on an up or down today.
Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think the overarching issue is who's driving the train on where our downtown's going. And I think that's the question that's trying to be answered. And I agree. Mr. Mayor, no, I don't want to put all of that on the DIA staff shoulders, because that's the DIA staff.
But it's multiplying. It's multiplying, though.
It's slowly growing, but the capacity there, to your point, isn't there. But I mean, it's always been a question of, what we're doing kind of, you mentioned a master plan, what we're doing incrementally downtown, something comes up at CRTPA or something comes up here, we don't at the CRA board have the funds to do everything that needs to happen downtown. And I thought what Commissioner Richardson was suggesting is how do we get the first point of contact when different agencies want to start something, and it starts at the DIA and for approval, because I think Elizabeth is most on the ground dealing with the individual business owners downtown and really grasp that. So, I mean, if that's coordinating a master plan, so we're just all on the same page going in and we start executing it, I'm fine with that. But I do think as ideas get thrown out, we need to figure out which boards it goes to first, and when it gets to the CRA, when it gets to CRTPA, when it gets there. And I think anything downtown, it makes sense, they're not funding it, but just to make sure that coordination has happened and downtown actually wants it. I don't know if that's captured in what you are exactly saying in your motion, or maybe we just bring it back for a bigger discussion of how we coordinate future projects downtown. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr.
I mean, listen, we've heard today recommendations coming from the mayor, coming from Commissioner Porter and others, but who's coordinating all of that? Even what you mentioned, Mayor, all of the meetings that have been had and discussions that have been had, who's coordinated that? And so what I'm suggesting, and if it doesn't have to be the DIA, if you all have a better idea of who, it appears to me that the DIA should be that organization that all of this comes to, and Elizabeth, you let me know if we would be putting too much on you. I'm sure you would acknowledge that if you thought it was the case. But that organization where all of these ideas at least comes into initially, so that anyone who has an idea, they know that they can submit that idea to the DIA, and then from there, we have this coordinating body, whatever that might look like, if we think that that's too much for the DIA to handle. But I think we've got to have some coordination going forward, and not just ideas being thrown out and there not be a comprehensive plan for how we move forward. And so that's why I'm suggesting that at least at this point, and Elizabeth, if you want to, respond, if you think it's putting too much on you or not.
I think in terms of being able to manage stakeholder feedback and engagement, we're happy to be that agency that helps coordinate that. There's a lot of other agencies and entities that are actively working on this project. So I certainly want to be mindful of that and the effort and the incredible expertise that they all have. But when it comes to stakeholder engagement and presenting these updates to more of our community, I think the DIA can play an active role in presenting that publicly to our downtown stakeholders to get their feedback and then take that feedback back to you all. I don't necessarily want to change the scope of our organization or, add more than what I'm already carrying.
All right. So in light of that, Madam Chair, I'm going to repeal the motion. But I would like us to have that discussion.
In some governmental entity, not necessarily the CRA.
Right.
Okay.
Because like I said, the CRA is just a small part of that. But it could be in our role as a city commission. I mean, it is downtown City of Tallahassee.
Yes.
But at some point, we've got to have a discussion about how this train is driven, and if there will be a lead organization in that. I think that's going to be important.
And that, sir, is why you're considered the dean of the city commission. That wisdom right there. Board Member Porter.
Thank you. And I do want to, agree that I agree. I mean, the collaboration and the strategizing, I do feel, and I'm happy to have that conversation. At the same time, I do feel like this is all part of the process as far as, we come up with ideas and then we discuss them, and there weren't weren't voting on anything today, and it's part of each individual body's responsibilities that they give feedback to us and engage in the process. And so I don't believe there always has to be a point person. I do want us to coordinate. I do want to, and not that you were saying anything to the contrary, I like when we come up with ideas. When I campaigned, people asked me all the time what I thought and what ideas I had. I feel like since I've been elected, no one is as interested, frankly. So I would like to see, I would love to see more of that, but I agree the collaboration needs to be there, and I'm happy to have that discussion. And I think it would be fruitful, because I do think that we need to bring energy and life to our downtown. And it has been, I think, a little bit of a mess, because there are so many entities and governments involved. So, I think we're all on the same page as far as that is concerned. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I do think that'll be an important discussion for us to have. Thank you.
Okay, now, Mr. Mayor, I'm trying to remember, we were in sharing of ideas, I believe.
Yes.
And you did your sharing of ideas, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so now are you finished?
I'm done.
Okay.
That was.
Okay.
And so, but in terms of where we go from here, how will we determine, when will we have that discussion?
Well, if you're asking me, my thought is this board looks a lot like the city commission. And I think that needs to come to the city commission.
Right.
It should come to the city commission. And so I'm looking to you, Dean, to bring it to the city commission and ask for whatever we need.
Sure.
We need an agenda item, or we need a whatever to have this discussion.
Okay.
Then I think that's where it should be.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one comment. I've seen autonomous vehicles that can parallel park themselves, and that's incredible. What we're talking about in the future. But I took my driver's test in a 1984 Chevrolet station wagon, and I parallel parked it. I just want to brag on myself for that.
Hey, congratulations. And I took mine in I don't know what year Catalina, but it was this long. Yeah. And I parallel parked, that's all.
Yeah.
Now,
Some of us remember.
Passenger van.
And I have to let you all know, I taught my daughter to parallel park.
Good for you.
Because I knew how to do it.
Great discussion today. I look forward to continuing, how we're all going to work together downtown. I know this board hasn't focused on downtown as much as I think it can, but I do think, great things are happening, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right.
Excellent. So I would love for the downtown CRA to get an update as an information item on what is the maintenance and repair schedule of the infrastructure in the downtown CRA. What do I mean by that? Including but not limited to sidewalk repairs. Like, how are the sidewalks in the chain of parks? What's the repair schedule? Lighting, painting of infrastructure. Goes back to my original comment. Look, we're either going to do the brick stamp on Adams Street or not, but to have it all looking worn, and it is not a good show for downtown Tallahassee. Okay, so I would like to know, now that is going to be a City of Tallahassee item, but I think it's appropriate for it also to come to the CRA. But what I mean is, it's the City of Tallahassee's responsibility to provide that maintenance. I want to know where we are in the downtown. Madam Chair, I also agree, yes, it's the City of Tallahassee that should take the lead on the master plan. I do think that this is an agenda item that should come before the City of Tallahassee. Traditionally, the city, number one, has the financial resources. At the end of the day, it's going to be us that covers the largest majority of it. We have the professional expertise as well throughout many different departments of staff that would be coordinated on this. And we have the expertise, and we have the ability, and quite honestly, the track record of working with all the different organizations, DIA, Florida Department of Transportation, U.S. Department of Transportation, Planning Department, regional departments, and CRTPA. So we do have that capacity to bring everybody together. But I am excited, and I agree that we should have a master plan for downtown Tallahassee and how to move forward. That should also include public art, by the way. street art, sculptures. That should include an element. And Elizabeth, I look forward to introducing you to the new Dean of the College of Music at Florida State University, who I had lunch with the other day, who is really interested as well, bringing performances downtown and how we can integrate this conversation that we've had for years. So, but it's a City of Tallahassee issue to bring the master plan back. And I think that we should definitely have it on one of our next meeting agendas. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. I just have a couple of things that, Mr. Cox, I think that it is going to be very important that in the future, DRC actually comes and reports to this body, just like the Frenchtown, the Greater Frenchtown.
CAC.
Yeah, the CAC. The CAC and the DRC should be coming here to report out so we can stay on top of this. We all received, and I think we all received a letter of request from Mr. Bellamy regarding the Frenchtown Neighborhood Improvement Association and the building there in Frenchtown. He's made a request. I know it's not on today's agenda, but I would like to, as this being my last meeting as chair, I would like to tee this up for our next meeting to come back with an agenda item to explore, Mr. Norvell and Mr. Cox, to explore what his request is. I'm sure you've seen it as well, what that could look like, what should we do about it, if any precedence has been set in this regard, and let's look at how we need to address this request. And does anyone have an issue with that, board members?
I would like for it to be a vote. Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
No. I'm not making the motion.
Okay. Okay, well, Vice Chair, Mayor, Vice Chair, if you would take.
Sure.
Take the.
Madam Chair, you're recognized for a motion.
All right, thank you. I would offer the motion that staff, working with the city attorney's office, will bring back an agenda item to the next board meeting of this body to show us what this request would look like and some recommendations on how to proceed with this request. And for those who may not be aware, I'll just share that it is a request that that body, the Frenchtown Neighborhood Improvement Association, that they assume ownership of that building, because they're the ones doing a lot of maintaining it and doing some things with it. I just want to make sure that what we do is legal and binding, and that we're doing what has good community benefit. And I think we've all seen that benefit, but I want us to address it as a body. So that is my motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to formally entertain Mr. Bellamy's request to the Frenchtown CRA at the next CRA meeting.
I'll second it.
There's a second by Commissioner Richardson. So open it up for discussion. First of all, is everybody familiar with the request? Okay, Commissioner Porter.
Has this gone before the CAC for consideration? No. Okay. And their next meeting is Monday? I mean, I would feel more comfortable if this could be considered by the CAC. I feel like this isn't something we typically do. And so I think, out of respect for them, I would just appreciate to hear their take on this. But I'm fine moving forward, but I would amend the motion or something to make sure that it's something that we consider, because by the time we have the meeting, I would like to have the CAC's feedback on it.
The maker of the motion accepts your amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you're the chair now, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chair, Mayor. I mean, my understanding is that this is just being brought back to review as proposed. I think I got an email. I don't know the details, but I would definitely like the opportunity to discuss it. I agree it should go before the CAC. I didn't mention it earlier because our board meeting dates were on consent. But Mr. Cox, I think it would also be helpful to ask the CAC if they would mind scheduling their meetings closer to when we meet, maybe a few days before, so staff can always have time to have the same items lined up. Because as it is now, 3 days later, and then going and developing our agenda, things come up throughout the month. And I think if they met closer to our meetings, it would be a lot easier to. And historically, we've had issues where items have come up in between the CAC meeting, but there's urgency, especially when we're talking about development. So I think the closer we get those meetings, it'll make it easier for them to react on things like this that we want to bring back without having to drag it 2 months out, right? So I just want to throw that out for consideration, or for their consideration. I don't want to impose on their schedule, but thank you.
Oh, Commissioner Richards.
Yeah, just a very quick question. So if this is going to if it's proposed that it go to the CAC on Monday, today is Friday, tomorrow is Friday, how are they going to get the kind of information that they need to seriously consider this request by their meeting on Monday? I don't see how that can happen. Because there's information that would have to be gathered for them to have prior to their meeting. All we have right now is the letter of requesting.
If that is a question of me, where there is a will, there is a way. And if they don't have all of the information, they will have at least enough information to get the ball rolling, and so that by the time we meet in December, we can have what we might need. It may take multiple meetings. I'm not sure. I'll just look at Madam Chair.
Yeah, I was looking at her expression. Is it possible that she could comment?
Dr. Kim, thank you for joining us.
No, I'm glad. Thank you for bringing the need to engage the CAC, which I'm sure the CAC members would be happy to discuss. And pending Mr. Cox's and also Attorney Boo's expert opinion, we would be, I think one way that we can address or discuss this issue is as a non-agenda item, like at the end of the meeting, where we have conversations like you are doing, to have a discussion about this particular request, which we have not, most members have not received and don't know the content. But I would assume that between today and Monday, I can send out an email out to the CAC members through CRA staff, summarizing potential key points of discussion, so that we can have a substantive conversation on Monday, this coming Monday. I'd be happy to do that.
Just to make everybody aware, we do have an optional CAC meeting for December 7th, I believe. So if we need to make an agenda item for the CAC, that could be for that meeting, and at least you will be able to make a decision prior to the next CRA board meeting.
Right, and so how close was that? Were those two meetings, the December?
They're about 2 days apart.
Okay.
So you at least be able to have a discussion, and what your recommendations are, but it would be tight.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we can have somewhat of an informal but still substantive discussion this coming Monday, and then if need be, we can also bring it back to our optional meeting as well. And potential items might arise between now and in your December meeting as well. In that case, the December meeting can be a venue to discuss those new items.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that,
Commissioner Richards.
Mr. Chairman, that there is sufficient time to understand all of the issues involved in this and to vet it before it comes back.
Absolutely, I understand.
For a final decision. This is not something we can rush or should rush.
And Dr. Kim, you're familiar with the request on the table?
I do not know the content.
She does not.
Right.
And it's okay. The executive director has the letter. Okay, I just learned recently, like within some hours ago, that it was a part of CRA, because I think that the letter came to the city as opposed to the CRA. So we're trying to, pivot.
Right.
So that we don't lose time and don't lose steam. And whatever the decision is, this is the decision. we do want everyone involved and engaged. And my motion was to bring back an agenda item. There is much work that takes place between what I just said and the next meeting to create an agenda item, which would include the CAC.
Right.
As many times as need be, because, you know, you can call special meetings if you need to. Do whatever you need to do to render what you need to get done to get your work done.
Okay, there's a motion on the table for the official request from Mr. Bellamy on behalf of the Frenchtown Market Association to go to the CAC for recommendation. Is that correct?
Well, and for staff to bring back an agenda item.
And for staff
options.
And staff to bring back an agenda item with options. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. And as we close, I want to just remind everyone that it is FAMU homecoming. You probably heard that somewhere. And that it's a week-long experience. It's an epic return. And I see the Frenchtown Rising crew in the audience. So there's a Frenchtown Rising event that's taking place on Friday night, partially funded by the CRA. So we want to make sure that we bring citizens and bring visitors to our city to have a great time in Frenchtown. And if I can have a point of personal privilege, I'll ask Mr. Barber if you would just come and do a quick commercial. I see you on the edge of your seat waiting for me to say the right thing. So if you would just come and say the right thing, tell us who's coming, who's on deck.
Kayla Norris Barber, 527 West Brevard Street. We have an event that we think is just going to make this community explode.
In a good way.
In a good way, yeah. When I say explode, I mean in terms of what we imagine as attendance for this event. God willing, and the weather permits, we know it may rain, but hopefully it won't be raining by the time we have the Rising event. And it may just be a little chilly, so, you know, if you guys coming, dress accordingly. But we have a show where we will have actually 2 stages this time. On our main stage, we will have our house band, which is Tallahassee Nights Live, and a performer called West Love. But the main attraction is Anthony Hamilton, and everybody in the city is excited about seeing him. And as usual, we'll start with prayer and meditation. We'll have some youth groups perform, and we'll recognize some business pioneers, and then the entertainment. And we can't forget all of the vendors who come and that spur some economy in that area, and the people who come in and enjoy the added benefit of having people in the community for those businesses that are stationary there. And
thank you.
We support, we appreciate all the support that the city has given us and all the support that the CRA has given us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And the last one, the 850 edition, was historic. We had the Marching 100 in Frenchtown again, and that was a very, very proud moment for a lot of folks. This was my last meeting as chair of the CRA board, and I have thoroughly enjoyed my tenure, and I am happy to pass it to the mayor, because in our rotation, the mayor is the next chair. And so congratulations, Mayor. I hope that we put a bow on all the stuff that we went through this past year, and we're passing you on to lead us into some more productive activities here to move our city forward. I'm real excited about what's happening in both CRAs, and I'm looking forward to continuing this great work. And it's been a pleasure working with each and every one of you to make this happen. And I think we've done some real, as the children would say, we've done some tight work here. So let's keep making, as Joe Bullock would say, we're gonna keep making the orange brighter and the green tighter. So let's do it. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to serve.
You get the gavel yourself.
All right, we're adjourned.
you.